Hello, everyone, and welcome to another American Diabetes Association Be a Friend Friday chat. November is American Diabetes Month, and all month long, we'll be chatting with people around the diabetes community to shed light on what it's like living with diabetes. My name is Marley, and today I'm speaking with Shirley Bovshow. Shirley is an award-winning garden television host and has been living with type 2 diabetes for several years. And we're going to hear a little bit about her life with type 2 and how she manages living with diabetes while balancing family and her work. Welcome, Shirley, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Marley. It's great to be here this morning with the rest of the community.
Yes, thank you so much. And before we really get into your diabetes diagnosis, I would love to hear a little background on you, kind of where you're based and what you do for a living.
Wonderful. Well, I'm known for my landscape designs. I'm a professional landscape designer in LA, but I've been on television for the last 15 to maybe 20 years. At the very beginning of my career, on HGTV, I had my own show on the Discovery Channel as the Garden Police, where I would bust people for having the ugliest yards, and my partner and I would make them over, one of those garden makeover shows. And then in the last 10 years, I've been on the Hallmark Channel as the garden and landscape expert and the food growing expert for the Home and Family Show. And right now, I've got a really fun web series called Eat and Living with Shirley on a new site and a new network called Great American Community. And so that's greatamericancommunity.com. And I hope you guys will drop by and check out my tips for eat and living, including living with type 2 diabetes.
That sounds amazing. I don't have a very good green thumb, landscaping, planting, any of that. So I should absolutely check that out. I think you probably have some great tips for me.
So, hope so.
So when were you diagnosed with type 2 and kind of do you remember the symptoms and like leading up to your diagnosis?
Yeah, it was crazy. This was about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more. It was right in the middle of COVID. And it wasn't like I had any symptoms and I was diagnosed. No way, Marley. I had pre-diabetes for 10 years. And basically, honestly, I never paid attention to it. I just, I didn't feel anything weird. I didn't feel strange. So, I didn't make any lifestyle changes. I didn't, do anything to prevent it from progressing.
Sure.
And so 3 years ago, I was doing my annual and my doctor says, you have crossed the line, Missy. But I'm saying it that way. She didn't say it that way. But, she's like, I'm sorry to tell you, but, you really are in the type 2 diabetic range now. And for some reason, Marley, even though I had never taken pre-diabetes seriously, all of a sudden, this big cloud just came over me. And I'm like, what? It became real. Now she said I have type 2 diabetes. And then from that point on, I started to study everything that has to do with it. Like, is it going to, lessen my life expectancy? I mean, I was really looking at big things. Am I going to have issues with amputation? All the things that were stereotypical started clouding my mind. And I started thinking, that is me now. That is my risk. And it was really, really scary. Yeah. And so, at that point, I started educating myself and making a lot of changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a scary, it's kind of like a shock, I'm sure, when you first find out, you're like, what do I do now? And your life completely changes. When that diagnosis happened, did you know anyone else in your life, family, or anything that was living with diabetes at the time?
Well, that's the interesting part. There is no type 2 diabetes or even type 1 in my family. I mean, I asked on both sides, which is weird because for a Latina family, there's a lot, for Hispanics in general, there's a lot of type 2 diabetes, but there was none on either side. And so I was the first one. Thanks, Shirley. It's like they had me to thank. I became the first one. And so I really didn't have anybody to lean on. So I really did kind of rely on the online community and books and my doctor and my dietitian. But it became a completely new world because you know what it is? I think that when you're diagnosed with prediabetes and you're in
Mhm.
your 30s and you're not, or 40s, and you don't really feel anything, you're at that age where you're not really thinking about repercussions, maybe because you're too busy with your career. But then when you get closer to 50 and then you get the diagnosis and you realize that this is a diagnosis, a condition that could really impact your life expectancy as
Mhm.
well as quality of life, I'm like, no, I don't want to lessen my life expectancy by 10 years. No
Yeah.
way. And so it became real to me. And so, yeah, I started like really just focusing on learning the most about the disease and learning how to live with it, but more than live with it, how to reverse it. That was my goal. And I know that that's a controversial subject. Is type 2 diabetes reversible or not? Well, certainly, even if we're not going to go all pie in the sky and say, yes, you can get rid of it, you can definitely, with your help of your doctors and your lifestyle and all kinds of stuff, you can make steps towards alleviating the high risk so that you don't have those high cardiovascular risks and you don't have those high, potential blindness or amputation.
Here at the ADA, we often refer to it as like a remission of type 2, kind of like lessen those symptoms, lessen those risks and
Right,
complications. It's very
exactly.
possible. Yep, it's very possible to go into remission, especially with what sounds like the support that you have with your doctors and the support
Oh, yeah.
and just like the drive you have yourself to learn as much as you can and
Oh, yeah.
change your lifestyle.
Well, it sure did. And it changed my focus also as a public person, which is interesting because
Mhm.
I had my series, Eat and Living with Shirley, and they're like, oh my God, she's going to teach us how to grow food and how to make a beautiful flower arrangement, how to remodel our our backyard, redo it and stuff. But then I came to the producers and I said, you know what? There is a real need for the pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetic community, and in general, just people who want better health.
Mhm.
Can I do more segments like maybe on low carb recipes and low
Mhm.
carb baking and cooking, because I love to do that. And my moniker is Foodie Gardener because I teach people how to grow food. But now my emphasis is really like, what are the low carb, low glycemic index, low glycemic load veggies, how to use them, how to substitute sometimes a potato for something else that's really starchy but
Mhm.
has much less of an impact on your blood sugar levels and is so delicious. And not only am I going to show you how to cook with this, but I'm going to introduce you on how to grow it. So it's become really fun, and adding that type of a focus to the work that I'm already known for, but now I'm kind of got a little twist to it so that it's a much more diabetic friendly type of presentation.
Yeah, I love how you kind of start at the ground level, teach them how to grow
Yeah,
food, and then you get to the point of you've grown this food, how do you prepare it in a
yeah,
way that's really beneficial to you? And that's an amazing thing to be teaching others because I'm always out there looking for, low carb recipes or better recipes that won't affect my blood sugar as much. And
wow,
so
that's
that
great.
trajectory is great to be able to start
I'm
there.
gonna, yeah, I'm gonna steal your line. I'm gonna say I'm gonna show you from the ground up because you said that, and
Yep,
that's totally true. That's
it's
exactly right,
literally true.
right?
Yep. Hmm. And
Interplay it into your life.
yeah, 100%. And so, what kind of other tools do you use for your diabetes management? Obviously, nutrition is a big one, but do you use any like technology or anything like
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh my God. I'm wearing long sleeves, but I've got my Freestyle Libre.
Hmm.
So I've got my monitor, my to scan for my
Yep.
blood sugar levels. I also do back it up with my finger prick. I still do that, multiple times a day. And so, not wanting to seem extreme, like my husband says, "How many times are you going to prick your finger? How many times?" I go, "Honey, listen. I'm not just doing it for myself. Right now, I'm in this exploratory phase of my type 2 diabetes where I am doing a lot of scanning and a lot of readings because I'm doing a lot of testing with recipes and foods and different vegetables and different fruits because I want to know what the impact is to my blood sugar level. And so I do my own. I'm like a little rat lab. Like
Yeah.
it is a lab rat. I'm a
Yep.
little lab rat. So to me, it's actually a very fascinating thing, and I don't mind doing it. So I'm almost obsessed with that. So I have like a notebook. I have an online digital journal about my blood sugar readings before a particular new food or new vegetable or something I want to try out. And then an hour and a half to 2 hours later. And so I have, because I want to write a cookbook and I want to write a baking book because I love food. Okay. I love food.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting, but I want to be real about it because I know that there are ingredients for baking, some that have a higher impact on our blood sugar levels than others. And so I'm really experimenting, and I've come up with, Marley, I've come up with a carrot cake recipe. Oh my gosh. That does
Amazing.
not move my needle, does not move my needle more than 10 points. So
Wow.
yes, so it's really, really exciting. So I'm that person who not only is being proactive for myself, but I'm thinking about others too, because that's just who I am. I've always been a presenter. I've always been a teacher, horticulture and gardening and all that. But to me, the most precious subject is our health.
Yeah.
And if I can have a little bit of personal insight to add to all of that medical studies and scientific information to augment it and kind of round it out a bit, I want to be a person to join that conversation. So I'm doing all of that to prepare the information that I share online with all of my community.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing because firsthand experience is so valuable, just like as a for personal like references, but then for others who are starting out on their journey or like have been in it a while and just feel kind of stuck. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, here's someone who's showing me in real time the effects it had for them. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a starting point at least, because of course everything kind of affects everyone differently, but it's a
totally.
great,
Yes,
great information.
right. And I do make a point of that because you'll see on my Instagram, on my Facebook, there's a lot of, I would say it's probably 50-50 content where it's about type 2 diabetes, lifestyle tips, food tips, product tips, and then, total gardening, how to grow food and yada, yada, and also how to make recipes. But the thing is that I'm doing now is I'm actually doing videos where I go to a restaurant and say like, hey, do you love Korean barbecue? Me too. But we're type 2 diabetics. If we want to be mindful of some of the ingredients, take a look at what I'm ordering and how I'm modifying my bibimbap order. And then we do a blood reading at the beginning before I even go into the restaurant. I show what it is. And then I show how I'm ordering with modifications to the lower sugar impact stuff. And then we go to reading a couple hours later. And that's one of the favorite types of videos that my followers enjoy, as well as when I go to the market or I go to Costco and I say, hey, I found some really diabetic friendly products, but let's look at the nutrition facts. And that's something that I really enjoy going through, because not only do we go through the macros like, hey, this has got a good deal of protein and it's low carb, but take a look at the nutrition below the line. We're just not eating to eat calories, whether they be protein, fats, or carbohydrates. We're also, besides that energy, we want nutrients, especially as type 2 diabetics. And so I'm teaching people how to look for all of the vitamins and the minerals and what makes a food really nutritious. And of course, this is information that I've learned from nutritionists, as well as I've actually enrolled in Stanford University's online course for nutrition science, because I'm that much into it. It's like, I don't just want to get on a camera and start telling people, oh, eat this because it's good, and not know what I'm talking about. I'm learning. Yeah, I've learned how to evaluate the nutritional facts, the panels. What is it that I'm looking for? And how to evaluate a scientific study, because we all read, right, Marley? Oh, a new study has come out and said that, don't eat this, or diabetics, this is dangerous. Well, I will actually go to the primary source, to the study, not the articles about it. And
Yeah.
I have learned now how to assess if this is scientifically sound. What are the chances that this is viable and true for most people? Or is it just for a little demographic, like if you're over 70 or if you're under 20? And so that's really exciting to me to have gathered that information, because it makes me feel like I've got something much more valuable to contribute to the community. And I think that that's really important for us to be able to have interesting ideas for our foods, for our lifestyle, coming from our peers, because we hear from our doctors and our nutritionists, but all my stuff, I really want it to be science-based and based on fact and not just, Shirley. But I do get excited about my food.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the modifications are a huge part of it, because a lot of people just don't know what those modifications are that could change a lot for them to just like make it a little more nutritional, a little healthier, a little just better in general. And I love how you're backing it up with like as much science and fact as you can, because as a non-doctor, it's really great to have someone in the community that can say, I know this because of everything I've learned, everything I've researched.
Sure.
Speak with your doctor and make sure this works for you, but like this is what I'm finding for me, and that's so helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of like, again, a twist on my horticultural career. Because I am based in science with horticulture, it's plant science. So now it's just like body science, nutrition science. So I really love that kind of information. I love digesting it, understanding it, and then being creative with it. Like, well, okay, if that's the case, and this ingredient is low glycemic index, maybe I can use it as a substitute for this. Like, for instance, right now, the big thing for me, I'm so into it, is kabocha squash. Have you heard of it?
I have not. What is that?
Okay, so it is a squash. It's the winter squash. It's not like a summer zucchini. It's more like acorn squash, spaghetti squash, that family.
Sure.
But it has a very low glycemic index, low glycemic load, and it tastes starchy. It tastes like a sweet potato without the impact of a sweet potato. It's got a lot of fiber in it, a lot of nutrients. Oh my God. Okay, if you love sushi, and in my past life, I used to totally overindulge in tempura, vegetable tempura. And so a lot of times that yam that you have in vegetable tempura is not yam, it's kabocha. So it's very much used in Japanese cuisine. So you've probably tasted it if you've enjoyed that sweet potato taste in your tempura. That was kabocha squash. And it tastes like it's really starchy, like you're, doing something like, should I be eating as much of this as I'm eating? Yes, it's amazing. So I'm right now using it as a base for soups instead of other types of, sweet potato or yam-based soups. I'm using it. I'm grilling it. I'm broiling it with a little bit of salt and olive oil. Oh my God, I'm in heaven. I'm having so much fun, and I'm getting so excited because I'm planning my content, my videos about first introducing people to kabocha squash, what it is, how it's grown, how to grow it, and then how to prepare it and how to utilize it. Yeah. So that's part of all of my world at this point.
Yeah, I feel like I need to be taking notes. I'm like, I don't know anything about
this. I need to be taking notes. There's a lot to share.
Up to this point, what are some like challenges you've kind of faced, or at least faced over the years, that you've had to work through?
Okay, listen. Something that was like a learning curve for me is how much your stress levels on an everyday to-day basis affects your blood sugar levels. Because, here I am, like I'm explaining to you how dutiful I am with my blood sugar and testing things and being low glycemic index and being, as careful as possible. Some days I would wake up, with 150 fasting sugar, and I'm like, what the heck? I haven't even eaten. What is going on? But what I found was during a period of time, and this was like a month run, where I was going through a very, very stressful period. My father-in-law was in the hospital, and I am also a patient advocate. So I was his patient advocate, and I was there, every day from like 7 to 8 at night. And
Wow.
although I was eating still my low carb approved foods, I was maybe missing some meals and the body would react to that because as type 2 diabetics, we have to be careful, just to make sure that we're evenly spacing our foods out. But I wasn't taking care of that. Then I'd come home and have my approved foods, but I'd have maybe too much of it or whatever. I'm telling you, I was so off, but more than anything, I would notice that when my heart started to race, like I got bad news from the doctor or something,
Hmm.
I would experience spikes as if I had a milkshake.
Yeah.
So, and it was consistently happening. And I was like, dang, I am so cortisol sensitive. And then when I say cortisol, it means it's the hormone that our body is flooded with when we go
Hmm.
through these types of stressful situations, and almost kind of like an adrenaline rush. And so I'm like, dang, I'm like an adrenaline junkie. What is this? And I would find that I was getting all these massive spikes from the stress. And
Hmm.
so, after a month of this, I called my endocrinologist and I said, I need an appointment. I am spiking all over the place. I have not changed really my diet except for my timing. I'm not exercising as much because I'm at the hospital every day for a month.
Hmm.
And so she suggested, because prior to this, I had been handling my blood sugar levels and everything without any medications, because she said, go ahead and give it a try.
Sure.
So for 2 years, I was great, but I could not fight the cortisol and the adrenaline and the stress by myself. So
Hmm.
I started metformin, on a starter dose of metformin, and I'm still on it. It's been 2 months. And I'll tell you, it's been amazing because it really took me from that part where I was handling it okay, but then the stress came and then it went up here to
Hmm.
really bringing it down. It's like the metformin is honoring everything that I'm doing for myself. Plus, it's being my best friend, kicking in, and helping me, like putting its arm around me. Shirley, you're going to be okay. Come on, let's go down this glucose spike
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
it really, I can't say enough about it. It has been beautiful, especially as a type 2 diabetic who started off without meds. So I
Hmm.
know what it's like to wake up with a fasting blood sugar of 130 without metformin or anything, and try to work it on my own with my lifestyle and my food, and be successful with it. But it took a few months to get to that point where I could wake up at 110, which was good for me without meds. But when I was waking up at 150 and I was like going crazy, I'm like, help.
Yeah.
And I
And
got the help I needed. So,
yeah. And when it continuously keeps doing that, you get more and more stressed about it. You get anxious about it. And like, it's amazing what stress and anxiety and like all those types of things can do to your blood sugar. I
it's
think,
really,
yeah, people who aren't dealing with that every day don't understand that like so many things play into your blood sugar, not just like what you're eating. And
yes.
it's such an important like conversation to bring up. And it's like stress, hormones, anxiety, dehydration. Are you not drinking enough water? Like that'll
Oh,
affect
thank you for the reminder.
you. Happy to help.
Oh,
And so it's just there's so many things, and to be as educated as you can is so important.
yeah, it's so important. And on the same subject, sleep apnea, something that is not spoken about enough.
Hmm.
That's something that I've had for many years. Again, like my prediabetes, something that I didn't pay attention to because you're asleep. You don't know what the heck is going on with yourself when you're sleeping. You're sleeping unless you're waking up every 2 minutes, like, waking yourself
Right.
up with sleep apnea. But I wasn't doing that. But I had been diagnosed with sleep apnea, more than anything, sleep hypopnea, which means not that I totally stop breathing in the middle of the night, but that I breathe very shallow. So when
Hmm.
you breathe shallow, you're not able to circulate the oxygen to all your tissues and all your organs at satisfactory amounts. So in the long term, if this continues for years and years, you start to build plaque in your brain, and that's a precursor to, Alzheimer's and dementia and all of these things that, that a lot of people with type 2 diabetes sometimes end up with. And they say, Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes because it's so related to that group of people. And I was like, oh my God, I better take care of my sleep apnea.
Mhm.
also while I'm at it, taking care of my type 2 diabetes. And I got my CPAP machine. But I mean, we need to talk about, Marley, we need to talk about sleep apnea. Please have me back on sleep apnea because I've got so much to share about that. That I've
Mhm.
actually done my experiments too. I slept with a pulse
Of course.
oximeter, like a medical grade, to see,
Mhm.
well, is this CPAP machine actually even helping me with my oxygen levels? Is it at the right pressure?
Sure.
Or am I still desaturating? And I got some doozies for you. I'll tell you. I mean, we want to be our best health, right? Have our best health. Well, CPAP and sleep apnea, big subject for type 2 diabetes community, everybody in general. But I have some stuff to share from my own experience and how I'm improving my chances of avoiding all of those big risk stuff that comes from having sleep apnea for years.
Absolutely. Well, and it's again, everything is connected. So many things
Oh,
connect each other. And so it's kind of looking at the whole picture and making sure that
right.
you're taking care of each part of your life.
Oh, absolutely. I try to. I mean, those are the things that I discovered is like, wow, sleep apnea is a big deal. You know, stress is a huge deal. But I also have some tips on how, I mean, it's not new tips. I mean, for me, it's new because, I haven't been a type 2 diabetic all my life. But one of the things that I find that really works is like, for instance, when I have a spike, just from my stress, because
Mhm.
that's really when I get my spikes, not so much my food. My food is really under control right now, thank God. But it's really my stress. I will actually stop and I'll just take my dogs for a walk. I don't even have to break a sweat. I will go for 10, 15, 20 minutes if I have a little bit of time, and I
Mhm.
just very mellow walk. I'm not like, let's run, we're just
Yeah.
walking. And then when I come back inside the house, I'll take a reading. I swear I'm down 15, 20 points. I'm like, dang, everybody should know about this. Do something, move that body. So when I see a spike, and when I say a spike, I think of anything over, if I'm fasting or not eating, like over 120, like why am I, or 130, I'll go for a walk. I'll go for a walk. But of course, now that I'm with metformin, my bestie, it has helped me. It has helped me to avoid those types of extraneous spikes from my cortisol levels. But like I said, it's still a great tip. Do a little bit of something, or even walk around the house.
Yes.
Get get
No,
up, move it.
any sort of like movement, a little bit of exercise is so helpful. And,
Right,
it really helps with like even your own mental health and making sure like you're kind of keeping that stress in check and yeah, get moving is such a great
right.
reminder.
Yeah. So, just moving around. There's so much. Oh, and also trying to make a schedule for myself so
Mm,
that I actually sleep, go to bed at 11:30. And I mean, yeah, that's related to the sleep apnea conversation, but it in itself, just getting more than 6 hours of sleep a night, 7 to 8, is ideal. It has been so vitally important to me that I
mhm.
see a huge difference when I sleep well, and I sleep a lot, and it helps. It helps a lot. And the other thing, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm not letting you ask me questions.
No, it's great. Keep
It's a Shirley go. Oh, okay. The one thing that I want to say that, oh God, if I could go back in time,
Mhm.
I would not be such a, I don't know, maybe it's just my disposition. I'm just so driven, and there's nothing wrong with that, because drive and ambition and all of that is amazing, and it's the fuel for many of us. It's an
Mhm.
impetus for us to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
But what happened was that I started to be so over the top because I have a lot of energy. I can handle a lot of things, and I don't feel tired. And that's where the big lie to myself happened. All these years with my pre-diabetes, not feeling sick, not feeling thirsty, not getting tired, not this and the other, I would work 18-hour days. I'm talking for years, Marley, 10, 15 years. That's
Wow.
just me. Okay. 18-hour days. And I would sleep maybe 4 hours a night. I would go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake up at 7, for
Mhm.
the kids and stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go. So how misleading is that? That my body was not registering the fact that it needed to rest. For years, Marley, I would go this way. And so I was part of that side hustle uh, community, which is cool. Like, we're proud that we're able to achieve so much. But just because we don't feel tired, just because it doesn't register in our body and we can get up after 4 hours of sleep and have a full day and be sharp, that doesn't mean that your body isn't going to give you the check later on.
Yes.
Here's your bill, babe. Here's your bill. You know, all of that you worked so hard, all of that energy, all that unrestorative sleep that you had, and that restorative sleep that you missed on. This is your check. Type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea. I have, because of my sleep apnea, decreased lung function, which I'm working on right now to increase it. All kinds of things that came later. And yet I'm not ready to hang up my hat. You know, I got a lot more work to do. And so I feel like my biggest work is ahead of me, because it has to do with health and wellness and encouraging people and teaching them and sharing recipes and whatever, all of the good stuff in life that I'd like to share. So I'm like, the bill came. There is nothing in life that is free. Everything is going to demand something from our body, is what I've learned. So whether it's physical exertion during the day and not resting, at the end of the day, many years later, you will get a health bill check, what you owe, and you may not like it. And I didn't like what I saw when I got my bill for the lifestyle that I wasn't even mindful about. And I know that some type 2 diabetics, it's in the genes. I feel really bad about that, because sometimes there's very little you can do about it, because it's there and you just have to watch it. But like I said, I didn't have that. I have everybody in my family good. I know what I was doing now in retrospect.
Right.
Bad habits, the carboholic. I was a carboholic. I mean, massive stories of carboholism, if I can say it. I mean, so I was the classic picture, not of the person who gets blamed for getting diabetes. I was the classic one. I mean, I probably could plead guilty for many of the things because I was so extreme, but I am not the typical. I'm not the typical. I know, like now I talk to people and they say, oh, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, everybody has it and they're getting it, but not for me. I can look back at the things that I wish I would have done differently. Yeah. And those are the things that I want to, encourage people in lifestyle, not in a blaming way, but just like in suggestions, know, like maybe do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, even today, you've given everyone so much good, vital information that I hope that they can take back and make changes to their lifestyles. And hopefully they have learned some great tips from you, because I sure have. So I hope others out there have as well. Just to wrap up, how can people follow along with you on your journey?
Okay, great. Please follow me on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, it's at Shirley Bovshow, my name, and as well as my second account, which is at Foodie Gardener with an underscore at the end. On Facebook, I have a page that's called Eat and Maker by Shirley Bovshow. And the last thing I want to say about that, Marley, is I'm really proud of the fact that on my online communities, I have a 100% reply rate. And I get hundreds to thousands of comments at the end of the month or at the end of the week, and every single person is replied to in English and Spanish. So if people out there have questions about recipes that they'd like, or a suggestion or whatever, comment below, because I will answer.
That's amazing. That's such a great resource for anyone out there who has questions or just wants to know more. Thank you again, Shirley, for sharing your story with us. It's been amazing to hear your journey and how diabetes has not stopped you one bit.
Not going to. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us on another Be a Friend Friday chat. We hope Shirley has encouraged you to advocate for yourself and your health. Please keep checking back on our American Diabetes Association social media pages all month long. because we will have more stories and events coming up for American Diabetes Month. Thank you again, Shirley.
You got it. Thanks, Marley.